All right, strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to sound crazy, but the Flash plot has leaked all over the place. It's on Reddit, it's on other forums, and a lot of this has to do with the Discovery merger because people just don't care about NDAs right now. So the entire movie is out there in the wild, supposedly. Now, take the following information with a grain of salt, but this sounds like both a train wreck and interesting. Just what do I mean? You have to wait till right after this. What is happening, Internet? Welcome back to the O1 channel, your news for all things The Dark Knight and video games, TVs, movies, games, and occasionally DC Comics, until, of course, they kill The Dark Knight in a few days. But yes, the Flash movie has leaked. Keep in mind that this will be spoilers, and I will do my best to try and piece together different things to try to make it more cohesive. Because a lot of this information is all over the place. It doesn't necessarily take place in the order that you're hearing or that you would see if this movie, in fact, does survive in its entirety. Remember that the Discovery merger ends this week. Supposedly, David, the new CEO, will be taking charge of Warner Discovery this Friday. There's been a lot of sacking of WB executives, some of who are very anti-Zack Snyder. I will let you know that right now. So people saying restore the Snyder Cut will never happen. Yeah, don't count your dark sides before they hatch and give us Justice League 2 and 3 on HBO Max. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but I mean, there seems to be less obstacles in the way of David and Discovery. And especially how this movie goes, it really leaves the door open for a lot more Snyder Cut because you're going to have to know how all this stuff happens after the Flash movie and what Batman and company have been up to with a Flash being gone from their world. But before we get to that, just keep in mind this is all spoilers. So just, if you ever wanted to see the Flash movie, this is from details I've heard about the movie from people that saw it. And it may end up being spot on and not changed because the audience reaction of this version of the movie was actually pretty good. The executives at Warner Brothers were happy. The press that saw it were elated. They walked away liking Supergirl and Barry, and even Michael Keaton's performance really blew them away. I wouldn't say he stole the movie, but his scenes were very action heavy, and he played Batman the way that he used to, but with a couple twists that we'll talk about. But anyway, so how does this happen? As I told you guys before, basically Ben Affleck is the root cause for Barry messing things up. The beginning of the movie is very similar to the Flashpoint film, the animated movie, where the Snyder Cut Justice League, some of them, are working on a case with Barry, and some stuff happens, and Barry and Batman, after doing their superhero work, have a little talk, and Bruce basically comes up with the idea that Barry saved the entire world because of time travel. And he puts the idea in Barry's head. Maybe they reminisce about his parents or whatever. And Barry gets this dumb idea to run back in time and try to save his mom, to disastrous results. Now, when he goes and meets his mother, which you've seen in the trailer, and she is killed, it's not really explained how she's killed until you see the Reverse Flash. Now, even though you see the Reverse Flash, you don't really know who he is. There is no actor playing the Reverse Flash. He has red eyes, the yellow suit, and he has this evil smile, and he lunges at Barry. Barry ends up being spat out into the 1989 universe, and he's stuck there. So the reason why they do the, hey, I'm stuck here in this universe, is that's exactly what happened to Barry in Flashpoint. He tried to save his mom. He goes into a world where she's now alive, but then he loses his powers because he never, really got his powers in that universe. And everything in this world is going through a huge disaster. And in the comic book, it was a war between Wonder Woman and Aquaman. In this world, it's the invasion of the Kryptonians, Man of Steel style. I kid you not. So Zod, Michael Shannon, Quasimodo, is back, along with Fiora, I believe is her name, from Man of Steel, and they want to terraform the Earth. And this matches up with information that Michael Keaton's Batman, Batman 89, the one who kills people and throws bombs on them and smiles and You know, he's just kind of a killer vigilante, puts on the suit, goes to work. He mentions in the trailer, which you can go back and, you know, listen to yourself, he tells Barry that Barry can be anywhere at any place at any time, and he chooses to stay and fight for this world. And this world is going to be destroyed by the Kryptonians. Then, before all of that, like I said, the information goes all over the place. A Flash that lives in the 89 universe, who is either part of the 89 universe or is a Flash from another reality, either the Justice League reality or another version of the Snyder Cut. So you already have Snyder Cut Barry, who learned from Ben Affleck that he time traveled and saved everybody in the Snyder Cut. Then he ran back in time and tried to save his mom, got stuck in the Keaton universe. There's another older Flash with long hair, who we'll call Future Flash, or Barry 2, who still has his powers, and he has been witnessing the end of the world in kind of like a Groundhog Day loop, supposedly. Maybe people told me this wrong, but also the Reddit leak says something similar to that. So, yeah. Long-haired Barry and clean-cut Snyder Cut Barry end up working with Michael Keaton, and they also need to kind of find out what happened to Superman. Well, long story short, as reports are happening right now, Superman was killed by Zod as an infant. This is 100% true, unfortunately. So people say that Man of Steel was dark before, but Zod literally kills Super Baby. So the only sole survivor of Krypton is Kara, and she becomes kind of like a gender-bent version of Clark Kent. That's all true. But the fight between a super person and the Kryptonians is more or less very similar to the Man of Steel movie. The Man of Steel movie elements have changed, but some of the key plot stays the same. Zod wants to take over Earth and terraform it into Krypton so that the people of Krypton can live and have a new Earth, and he doesn't really care about the primitives that live on the planet. So, same idea of Man of Steel. The only problem is this Earth is 89 Batman's Earth, and he's going to fight it. In order for them to battle Zod, they need to, have a weapon of their own, and they find Kara, who is locked up by the U.S. government, just like the Flashpoint comic. They break her out. They try to put this ragtag group together, and things don't go very well for them. You learn that this world has been destroyed, or worlds have been destroyed by Zod a lot, and one Barry is very tired because he's tried to save this reality over and over and over and over and over with, poor results. This causes a variant of Barry to be made known as the Black Flash. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, that zombie creature from the CW? Kind of, but think of kind of like Savitar from the CW, where you had like Scarface Barry, and he was, wrecked by Iris's death. So it's basically that. He's wearing the Black Flash costume, but it's a little bit different. And he hates all versions of himself because one Barry is responsible for all the doom of the multiverse, and that's Snyder Cut Barry, who selfishly tried to save his mom and then set off essentially like this kind of like bomb throughout the multiverse. And they fight and stuff after, Batman and Supergirl are killed. I know I'm just like throwing stuff like left and right, but just try to stay with me. They kind of do a recreation of the BVS stuff and the Man of Steel fight. It's kind of like shot by shot of Supergirl battling Zod, but the only difference is instead of, Superman killing Zod, Sasha apparently gets her neck snapped, and then Keaton, either before or after that, gets killed, which matches with the blood stain on the 89 costume that was teased by Andy, the director, in marketing promotional, that a Batman would die. Yeah, 89 Batman dies. So, I know, shocker, but that's where they're going with that. And it also explains why Batman changes at the end of the film. So just stay with me. I'm going to try to explain all this other stuff. So you've had different versions of Flash merge to create Black Flash, and they hate Barry, the Snyder Cut version, for the time travel and ruining their lives and ruining everything. In the multiverse, when Batman basically tells Barry before he dies, just like, Thomas Wayne dies in Flashpoint, to run back and try to save everything. Then the Black Racer, or in the Reverse Flash role, attacks the two Flashes. So then you have three Flashes in the Speed Force all fighting each other. and long-haired Barry from who was hanging out in Keaton's world dies, and then it's just Snyder Cut Barry versus angry, evil Black Racer Barry, kind of destroying timelines, I guess. It's like goes off the rails, so to speak. It's really, I don't think it's really executed very good. I think a lot of people would have really preferred the Thomas Wayne, killer Batman instead of, they have a killer Batman. It's 89 Batman. And he's in the Thomas Wayne role, but it is literally, it's Keaton. It's 89 Batman. And he has no qualms in taking people out. And he does some cool stuff in the movie until he dies, just like Thomas Wayne in the comic. I don't know if he's responsible for killing the Black Flash or not. I don't believe so. But again, I would have to, hear what different people have said about the movie. And again, it's kind of like a game of telephone. No one really wants to break the NDA completely. So some of the details are kind of vague, but also some of them could be spot on. So it all depends. And also, the version of the movie can always change. It's not like this is concrete, So always keep that in mind. There's 15 months until the movie comes out, so anything can happen. For instance, David, the CEO of Discovery Warner, wants to have Henry Cavill come back, and it matches with rumors that people want Henry Cavill to come back and do reshoots for The Flash because he technically isn't in The Flash. So they really want to put him in it so they can, really make the distinction. This is the Snyderverse at the beginning of the movie, and then everything just goes to Tartarus. Like, I can't snap my fingers, but you know where I'm going with this. Supergirl, a lot of people say she's kind of the best version of the movie for people, calling her performance like groundbreaking. The villain essentially of this movie, I know a lot of people say it's Zod, Michael Shannon, but it really isn't. Like, Zod is trying to save the Kryptonian race, and he's been going to planet to try to, terraform it to save the millions of Kryptonians that are on little DNA things. And Barry is entire, realities by selfishly trying to save his mom. I would say that is a bigger villain than Quasimodo Zod, I mean, maybe I'm alone in that. But I've always viewed the Flashpoint comic as Barry is the villain, just like Reverse Flash says, who's the villain now? Because Reverse Flash does some terrible things, yeah. Barry literally erased existence, and in this movie, he erases a lot of existences, almost leading up to a very big crisis event, which we'll talk about in a little bit. What I do want to mention is the characterization of Barry in this movie. He's a lot more like the Flash that a lot of us have wanted him to be, which is the Wally West kind of Bart hybrid. He's a little bit more jokey. He's a lot more lighter because, he saved the world by time traveling in the Snyderverse. He works openly with the Justice League. His costume is a lot different. He still has that stupid run, but, I mean, it is what it is. So it's nice to hear that there is going to be a lot more Wally elements for his character. But at the same time, it's still Ezra Miller playing him. But people have said that his performance is a lot better than the versions of Flash that we've seen, at least from the test screenings. People were freaking out with a lot of the Batman scenes. There's nothing quite like the warehouse sequence with Ben Affleck, but there's a really cool sequence with the 89 Batmobile that people will really like. And 89 Batman does some really cool stuff before he goes down. Zod is pretty brutal in this movie. He's essentially playing like the role of the Destroyer, like Darkseid was going to be, the invading force. So instead of Darkseid's forces invading, was teased at the end of the Snyder Cut, it's now Zod is back to life in this reality, and he's destroying the Earth. So, yay, that's kind of great. The whole baby Clark thing might make people feel a little disturbed, but you have to remember it's not like he's walking into Clark's crib in the House of L and just being like, aha, I see you, baby Kal-El, mwahaha, laser eyes, or whatever he does. Clark is a casualty to the explosion of Krypton, just like with billions of other people. When you think of it like that, it's less dark, but still kind of like, they killed Henry Cavill, baby. And that's just messed up. But that's what they did. So instead of Henry Cavill being the sole survivor of Krypton and on 89 Earth, it is Sasha as the sole survivor of Krypton as depressing Kryptonian on 89 Earth that really doesn't like Earthlings yet is going to step up and try to save Earthlings, and then she dies in a similar way that Henry Cavill died, sort of. I mean, he was killed by Quasimodo Zod, and she's killed by regular Zod. In the new timeline, Zod and his lieutenant will be alive at the end because that's something that DC wanted to fix because they weren't really happy with the idea of Zod, not given a break at all in the Man of Steel movies and then turned into Quasimodo Doomsday. That was not really a creative decision that was smiled upon, along with Jimmy Olsen. So, yay. Now I want to talk about, I know I keep jumping around, but how does this all work together with the new timeline? I haven't really heard exactly, other than how the characters die. I don't know how Barry wins everything, if it's a final battle against an evil version of himself, except he is the evil version of himself. I know it gets confusing. But Barry wins, and then somehow the crisis, quote, is averted, and Zod is defeated, and Earth is not terraformed, but 89 Batman World and Sasha as a Supergirl, they're dead and gone. And then a Batman is in this new reality, and he is Michael Keaton, but he's the Batman that appears in the Batgirl movie that takes place after The Flash. In actuality, the Black Canary movie that's in development, or post-production or whatever, the Blue Beetle movie, the Aquaman movie that was delayed, and some other projects take place after the events of The Flash. The Flash has several mid-credit scenes that people saw that have to do with setting up both their new reality and also teasing what happened to the Snyderverse, because the Snyderverse happens at the beginning of the movie. Technically, the Snyderverse is a big part of the movie because of Snyderverse Barry, and then they have a big setup at the end of the movie, which I know people have been waiting to hear that, so let's get into this. So, more or less, at the end of the movie, Iris, that you met from the Snyderverse, is restored in this new timeline, and Barry's dad is there, and Bruce Wayne is there, but not Ben Affleck, and Barry's dad ends up coming out of prison. We then see that basically what matches up with information we have, that Keaton is a temporary replacement for the new DCEU Batman until they get another actor to step in. Some rumors suggest that they want Robert Pattinson to do it, but I am saying nay to that because, one, the Matt Reeves universe is supposed to be a separate thing, and two, both Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson have said they will never do a colossal shared comic book universe with other characters other than Batman characters. So I don't see Robert Pattinson being what Warner Media wanted them to do by essentially becoming that Ben Affleck character. I don't think that's going to happen. So Michael Keaton's going to stay on for a while, and he's going to appear in a lot of different movies. He's shooting a sequence for the Aquaman movie that takes place after The Flash. He's going to be appearing in other characters' movies briefly, and which will add to the new continuity. Essentially what Ben Affleck did when he showed up in the Suicide Squad and other things. So, I mean, they're basically repeating things that they've already done, and they're also trying to catch up to what Marvel has done. So, I mean, that's really, not all that unexpected. After, the dad is free and they have the little happy ending, we see 2 mid-credit scenes that I know of. Maybe they'll add more, maybe they'll subtract more. I don't really know. But the one scene has Barry going and seeing Jason Momoa in a fun little cameo scene where he asks him, hey, this new world is great and everything, but what happened to Superman? And Aquaman's like, what do you mean, Superman? So either Superman exists or he doesn't. Then they have another little tease where Supergirl shows up in the movie, a different version of Sasha than we saw in the 89 universe, and Barry looks over and has this huge smile on his face because he sees another super figure that may or may not be a Superman. But we don't know if it's really him, so they're kind of doing like a worse tease than they did in the Shazam movie where Superman showed up and had lunch. So is it Henry Cavill? Is it Val Zod? I don't know. but it matches up with other people that said Henry Cavill isn't in the movie, which sucks, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. And then the last thing is the Snyder Cut. So basically, the final thing that people see is Ben Affleck in a reverse role to what happened with Barry in BVS, warning Bruce Wayne that Lois is the key. In the end of this movie, Bruce Wayne is reaching out to Barry and telling Barry to come find us, Barry. Like, come help us. And this sets up a massive crisis event where you literally see Ben Affleck's Batman is still around, and the Snyderverse exists in its own parallel branched universe that's not connected to all the destruction that happened with the, multiverse hopping. And it's just kind of there. It's really not going to be continued on right now, but should everything fall apart, they can always have that as a backup plan, or they're just setting up a crisis movie. I'm not really sure, but that essentially is all the information. So people saying that Ben Affleck's Batman dies and that he doesn't have a huge role in the movie, it is true that he doesn't die, and it is true that he doesn't have a massive role in the movie. At least right now. They could go and they could change some things if they wanted to, but his heartfelt scene with Barry at the beginning of the movie is kind of like the driving force of what Barry does, and Barry makes a lot of stupid mistakes based on his conversation with Ben Affleck. Right now, I would not expect a lot of Ben in the movie, maybe 15 minutes, but maybe they'll be fleshed out and they'll be better later. But all you need to know, again, is this tested really well with the audiences that saw it, so I don't know how much of the movie is going to be changed or not. That's up to Discovery and what they want to do. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. I will say that a lot of this stuff is spot on, except character A doesn't necessarily kill character C, or character B isn't really impacted by character D. It's kind of all jumbled, but for the most part, this Reddit leak is, I'd say, about like maybe 60% accurate. But anyway, now I want to hear from all you guys and gals. How do you feel about all this? Would you watch this movie? Do you care? Are you thrilled with the leaks because now you don't have to see it? Or you think, hey, this might actually kind of work? Me, I think it's kind of like this huge mess. And I don't really know why they just didn't do the Flashpoint movie. Because you could have had Aquaman and Wonder Woman as evil, fighting each other, destroying the world. Instead, basically, you just take the Darkseid role and you give it to Zod, who's been dead since 2013, maybe, and it just, I don't know, it feels like a thing that they're rushing to get done originally before the Multiverse of Madness, and then they got delayed, and then the Multiverse of Madness came out, and now with the Crisis tease, it's like they're trying to beat Marvel to the whole Secret Wars thing, and they're not going to beat Marvel to the Secret Wars thing. There's no way. The difference is, their Crisis movie, DC, we've actually already met the variants of the Snyderverse characters, and we've never had a movie of the variants for the Secret Wars characters with like Tom Cruise and Hugh Jackman and things like that. So aside from, Hugh Jackman's X-Men movies. So that would be different for DC because they actually already had a parallel Earth before they created this new Earth. I know it gets really confusing, but I wanted to address one thing before we go because I know a lot of people like to call me a WB shill. But I really am not on the fence about Ezra Miller being recasted. And it's not anything to really do with cancel culture. It has to do with, I don't like the fact that Amber Heard hasn't been recasted with the girl from Game of Thrones who is actually a better on-screen chemistry with Jason Momoa because she played his on-screen wife. I feel that actors should only be removed from their roles if they literally break the law. And they do something that's dangerous, that harms other people or themselves. And in Amber Heard's case, she literally threw an object at her husband that sliced off his finger. She caused him mental trauma. And Ezra Miller broke into a person's home, a couple's home, threatened to kill them, and acted like a crazy person, and yet he still gets to keep his job. So in that sense, I really strongly believe that that's not okay. And some type of, accountability should happen for things like that. Not just because, I don't agree with how this person lives their life or their politics. They literally broke the law, and Hollywood needs to be held at a higher standard when they literally commit a crime. And both actors did very bad things, and they should not have work right now. So I really do believe that Ezra Miller should be recast, and that Warner Brothers just shouldn't be like, oh, we're just not going to pay attention to this because it'll all blow over. It's like, sometimes you just have to be the parent and put your foot down and be like, no, you're done, and we're just going to recast you, or, you know, do something else with this movie. Like, I mean, there's so much time travel and variant things going on. You could easily replace Barry at some point in the movie with another Barry that kind of looks like him, but he's not, you know? It's multiverse. You have different versions of Batman that are going to appear in the movie. Why not, right? But anyway, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another BatNews, but talking about all the shenanigans going on with both the Snyderverse and the Flash movie. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see how right I am when the movie comes out in 15 to 16 months. Keep it locked here for more news on everything Batman in movies, TV, video games, and occasionally DC Comics. All right, until then, later Gothamites.